Welcome to my first fantasy football mock draft of the season. Now, for this is going to be a unique one. I'm going to do the zero running back strategy. And what that is where you don't look at the running backs as far as the value, but you're looking at running backs and could be potential league winners. So I'm going to enter this draft here, the mock draft here. This is a 12-person mock draft. So I do anticipate that McCaffrey goes one here, and then Cook will probably go at two. And I think the zero running back strategy, as you can see, I'm picking fourth. So I'm thinking that as long as I can have receivers and one of the big three tight ends in Kelsey, Kittle, or Waller, I think if I even if I do decide to pass on running backs here, which is what the plan is, I think that I could still assemble a team that could really go all the way, considering that I have a lot of great wide receiver and tight end depth that can get me points. So about a minute away from starting this mock draft here. I do kind of wish I was picking somewhere between 8 through 12 in this mock draft, but 4 is okay. I can still make this work, although I'll be waiting quite a bit longer as far as the quality of receivers and tight ends in early rounds. But I still think I'll be in pretty good shape here for this mock. All right, about 20 seconds here. Although if Mahomes is still on the board when it comes to my turn in round two, maybe I might take a chance on Mahomes in this mock draft, see how it works out. All right, so let's see who goes 1 through 3 in this mock. All right, Dalvin Cook went number 1. I'm a little surprised it wasn't McCaffrey. Jonathan Taylor went number 2. Pretty interesting. All right, McCaffrey went 3. So we're on the clock here, and the plan is to not take a running back here. So I am going to let's just see what I can get as far as quality points is concerned. Davante Adams would be a solid choice here, but for right now, it's uncertain whether or not that Aaron Rodgers will be the quarterback for Green Bay going into the 2021 season. So I'm going to pass on Davante Adams for now. I might go to him in another mock draft. So I'm going to go with Travis Kelce here because having one of those big three tight ends of Kelsey, Kittle, or Waller, I'm set up for some quality points. So next round, I'm probably going to go wide receiver here. And I'm going to try to get some ideas on who might be available when that comes around. I could maybe see Metcalf being available. Metcalf, I think that's a solid choice. I would think that DeAndre Hopkins might still be there. I just think it depends on how the rest of this draft is going on until it gets to my turn again. Maybe Calvin Ridley, as I expect Calvin Ridley to turn into wide receiver 1, and I expect him to get some quite a bit more targets with Julio Jones no longer being in Atlanta. And Ridley has really developed into a wide receiver 1 for the Falcons in about the last year and a half. All right, so it seems like everyone else is going with running backs here. Kamara went fifth, Barkley sixth, Henry seventh, and Aaron Jones went eighth. Zeke went ninth. Devontae Adams went 10th overall. So that's the first non running back, other than my pick of Travis Kelsey, to go off the board. All right, Tyreek Hill's off the board now. Now, usually in the second round, it's kind of split. I'd say well, since the majority went with the running back in their first pick, I expect a wide receiver to be in the second one, at least for most, if not all of them. As we see Eckler, Diggs, and Chubb, the last three picks. All right, DeAndre Hopkins is off the board now. So I got about five more picks. We'll see if Calvin Ridley's still up there. Cam Akers is off the board. Gibson's off the board. I expect Gibson to have another good season with the Washington football team in 2021. All right, I'm going to put Metcalf on my queue list here. Forgot to do that earlier. But three picks away, I'd say it's pretty likely I'm going to get a choice between these two. Even if not, I'm just going to, if one of them's off the board, I'm just going to take whoever's left. All right, Metcalf's off the board. So one pick away. We'll see if they take Calvin Ridley here. And if not, I'll have to come up with another plan. All right, so Najee Harris was the last pick before my next pick here. So I am going to go with Calvin Ridley because I just think that he's going to get a bunch of targets this season for the Falcons. And especially with Hurts and Pitts now in a two tight end set, I think that's going to open up opportunities for Ridley in the red zones. I think that defense is really going to make sure that one of those two are double covered. So I'm going to go with Calvin Ridley here as my second round pick. So I'm up again at about six picks. So I am probably going to go with, I'll probably go with one of the running backs here for my third round pick. Now, was it going to be Josh Jacobs? If I'm going to say that if DeAndre Swift is still around, which I don't think he's going to, but if Swift is still in the third round, I'm going to take Swift because I think Swift is going to have a big season for the Lions. I think with the addition to Anthony Lynn as offensive coordinator, I think Swift is going to get a bunch of touches in Detroit this season. And I think that could be a potential league winner in DeAndre Swift. So we have Carson Wentz off the board, which is kind of surprising, but honestly, a lot of mock drafts people don't like to take seriously as much. Unless this person really thinks Carson Wentz is going to have a really good season, be the top fantasy quarterback, then this is an extreme reach. Although what I could do I could take Patrick Mahomes here. I could maybe do that. I'm actually going to go with Patrick Mahomes here. I know I said that Swift can be a potential league winner, but I feel like now I'll go with DeAndre Swift. I just think passing on running backs in the first 2 rounds, I feel like I can't afford to do that for a third consecutive round. But I'll have to see if Mahomes still available in round 4, which honestly I kind of doubt. I feel like the majority of mocks. Yep. Yep. As I just said, that Mahomes is out the board. Keenan Allen goes next. All right. Darren Waller's off the board. All right. Josh Jacobs off the board. So we've got 2 of the big 3 tight ends off the board at this point, and we're about to head into round 4, which honestly I'm a bit surprised by because I kind of expected all 3 of those tight ends to be taken off the board in the first 2 rounds. So the fact that Kittle's on the board heading into round 4, I'm very surprised. All right, Amari Cooper's off the board. Terry McLaurin was off the board before Cooper. Chris Carson, first pick around 4. Julio Jones is off the board. I think this is kind of the George Kittle's off the board. And as I was saying, I think early 4th round is probably that ideal selection for Julio Jones, I think, considering that he has not been the most durable wide receiver in recent memory. I feel like the 4th round, I feel like that's more of a realistic placing for him. Because Julio Jones used to be about an early 2nd, late 1st round pick a few years ago, but recently he hasn't been the most durable wide receiver in the league. Robert Woods out the board. 4 more picks on my next selection. And I'm thinking here I might go either CD Lamb or I might go with DJ Moore. Allen Robinson is off the board. I could maybe take Tyler Lockett, but I think Tyler Lockett, I feel like his consistency, well, lack of consistency from last year, I think it's too big of a risk to have Lockett as an every week starter. Because if you look at Lockett's numbers from last year, yes, he had 10 touchdowns, but 6 of them were in 2 games. And then 2 more of those other 4 was in the final game of the regular season. So we're talking about 2 touchdowns in 13 games. So that's not really going to get it done for fantasy. So Tyler Lockett, I'm sure he's Tyler Lockett. It's not that he's overrated or anything. It's just that his consistency is an issue for me for fantasy wise. All right. So I'm up after this selection here. All right. So CeeDee Lamb was off the board. Thielen was off the board before, and then Mike Evans. So I'm thinking, I'm probably going to go with see. I actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp. I just think with Stafford now in LA, I think Cooper Kupp could be a dark horse to be a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy. Because Matthew Stafford, he may not be the best quarterback in the league. I feel like Matthew Stafford's underappreciated. You can say that he stat pads, but stat padding is always good for fantasy. And I think now that the Rams upgraded from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford, I feel like the Rams will be a pass first offense this upcoming season. Okay, so in the 5th round, J.K. Dobbins is still on the board. And the reason why I think J.K. Dobbins is still on the board at this point, I think this is an ideal spot, an acceptable spot to select J.K. Dobbins here. But when I see receivers like T. Higgins, even Josh Allen here, I'm going to go with Josh Allen here. Get my quarterback out of the way. I'm honestly waiting for another one of the running backs that I think can be a league winner. Like, personally, I'm waiting for Mike Davis. I think Mike Davis could be a league winner. I'd say I'm also maybe going to consider waiting for possibly maybe Leonard Fournette. I think that maybe Javonte Williams, I think he could be a dark horse to be a league winner. Because I feel like with the Broncos drafting him so early in the draft, I feel like there's no way that they're going to not give him as much reps if they draft him that early. So I'm going to put Mike Davis on the Q list. And if Mike Davis is going to be around in round 7, that'll be my 7th round pick. Right now, I'm thinking about looking for my flex spot here. Now, as far as flex spots are concerned, possibly maybe T. Higgins. I think Joe Burrow is going to really go to the next level in year 2. So I'm going to put T. Higgins on my Q list. Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju Smith-Schuster wasn't consistent last year. I feel like without a touchdown, Schuster was a bust for fantasy the weeks he didn't have a touchdown. So the consistency is going to be a bit concerning, as well as Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson dropped a lot of passes last season. I believe he led the league in drop passes last year, if I'm not mistaken. Odell Beckham Jr. coming off an injury. Cortland Sutton's also coming off an injury. Brandon Cooks, there could be potential there, but the question is Deshaun Watson going to play this season? If there was a definitive answer on Deshaun Watson playing this season, then I would take Cooks in a heartbeat. And it looks like Mike Davis is off the board, which is unfortunate. But maybe Travis Etienne. A lot of people are high on Travis Etienne, especially in PPR, because there are reports that he was taking reps as a wide receiver in these Jaguars practices. So that's huge news for PPR players. So Travis Etienne could be a secret weapon for your PPR leagues. We're starting to see these running backs off the board. Mike Davis is off the board. Raheem Mostert's off the board, someone that I was thinking of. Melvin Gordon's off the board. Although Melvin Gordon, he just seems to have about 2 or 3 good games a season, and just got to guess where they're going to be and hope you get lucky there. Okay, Dak is off the board. T. Higgins is off the board now. So let's see if I can hang on here for 3 more picks and then take Travis Etienne. Because James Robinson also had a good rookie campaign, which it does surprise me that they took Etienne, but now it's going to make sense for the Jaguars offense, especially with Trevor Lawrence as the QB. I think either way, if you take Etienne or James Robinson, I feel like you're in a pretty solid position as far as running backs wise. Now I see Kareem Hunt come off the board. We have now Kyle Pitts coming off the board here. DJ Chark is still on the board, which DJ Chark is somebody that I would consider for the flex. Now that Mike Davis is off the board, if I can get ETN, I don't know if I want to have a team where it looks like I'm extremely high on the Jaguars going into the season, but I feel like from a fantasy perspective, it would make a lot of sense. Although I could do Tyler Boyd as well. I'm going to go with ETN here. Because I think ETN, might be one of those high risk, high reward picks. So I'm hoping that I can take a risk on him and hope that it works out. All right, we have Lamar Jackson off the board. The pick before me was Laviska Shenault Jr., by the way. We've got the Colts defense out the board. And I think usually once a defense gets taken, then it's a mad dash for defense. So I will be surprised here if the next pick isn't the Rams defense. All right, let's remove James Robinson from the queue list since I already got ETN. So in my mind, there'd be no sense to have both of them on my roster. So the question is, should I go with the defense with my next selection, or should I try to fill out my flex spot? All right, Herbert's off the board now. I mean, Ayuk is a potential candidate for a flex position. Robbie Anderson had a good season last year, and with Sam Darnold at QB, I think that's going to be an upgrade for Carolina. Tyler Boyd, potentially. Great flex spot. I think Tyler Boyd will have a good season as well. All right, Devontae Smith has been taken with the first pick in the 7th round. All right, Hawkinson is off the board. All right, Cortland Sutton off the board. Now I'm up. So I'm going to pick one of my 3 here, whether if it's Brandon Ayuk, Robbie Anderson, or Tyler Boyd. And since I couldn't get T. Higgins, I want to get Tyler Boyd here. So I'm going to go with Tyler Boyd with my next selection. So Tyler Boyd, that's going to be my flex here. And I'm thinking now would be the time to start looking at defenses. The Rams defense, always a solid choice. I feel like the Rams defense, the Buccaneers defense, Steelers defense, I'd say 49ers or Washington, those are really your safe 5. I could maybe think maybe the Ravens defense. But at least I think out of those fantasy defenses, those are your big 5. All right, so we see Claypool and Schuster go off the board back to back. So I'm going to edit my queue list here. So I want to put the Rams defense at the top of my priority. and then put the Buccaneers defense next, and then the Steelers defense, and the 49ers defense, and the Washington defense. So as long as I can get one of those 5 defenses my next pick, I'm personally find myself in great shape. So here's what I have so far. I've got Josh Allen as my quarterback, DeAndre Swift and Travis Etienne as my 2 running backs. Calvin Ridley and Cooper Kupp are my wide receivers. I've got Travis Kelce at tight end. I've got Tyler Boyd as my flex. I'm always going to save my kicker for last because I feel like taking a kicker when before the last round, I feel like that's a waste of pick if you're doing a kicker for the final round. All right, we see Aaron Rodgers off the board, then Brandon Ayuk. DJ Chark is off the board. Russell Wilson's off the board. Although this feels like a little late for Russell Wilson off the board. I felt like Russell Wilson's about maybe a 4th or 5th round pick. James Robinson's off the board. So this is the final pick, the 7th round, coming up right here. As Javonte Williams is off the board, the rookie running back. Brandon Cooks off the board, the first pick in the 8th round. Tannehill's off the board in the 8th round and with the second pick in the 8th round. All right, Robbie Anderson off the board, but that's okay because right now I'm thinking about looking for defenses. Although maybe I could wait one more round if no defense gets taken within these next picks here for my next one. Because after my next pick, all right, Michael Carter's off the board for the Jets. David Johnson's off the board. All right, so 3 more picks to my next pick. But I know I said I wanted to take a defense with this next pick here. But if no defense gets taken before I'm up next, then I think it's in all likelihood I can hold out for at least one more round. Because as I have here is I have 5 defenses here on my queue list. Then max is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks until my next one. So I could potentially hold out as we have Michael Gallup off the board and Will Fuller off the board. I think I'm going to get Leonard Fournette here if he doesn't get taken here. All right, Logan Thomas was taken. So I'm going to go Leonard Fournette because I've got to get more running back depth here. And I think Leonard Fournette at this stage, I think is a really good pick here. All right, so 6 more picks. I think in all likelihood, I'm going to be able to get a defense here. Yep, now definitely I will get a defense here because Dallas Goedert's off the board. All right, Hollywood Brown's off the board. I'm going to keep my eye out for A.J. Dillon in round 10. I'm also going to keep an eye out for J.D. McKissick. All right, Jerry Judy is off the board, 8th round, 12th pick. So we're just now starting the 9th round. I'm 3 picks away from my next selection. And one thing is for sure, I will be able to get a defense here, one of those top 5 defenses that I have on my queue list. All right, Noah Fant is off the board. We got Jalen Hurts off the board, 2nd pick in the 9th round. All right, Debo Samuel's off the board. So I'm going to go with the Rams defense here. Now we'll see if that leads if it starts a chain of defense getting taken off the board, because the Rams defense, the best defense in the league. I'm going to take them here. So we'll see if it starts a chain of defense coming off the board. All right, Trevor Lawrence and Tom Brady back to back off the board. So maybe it might start here. All right, Zach Moss is off the board. I still want to build on my running back depth, because right now my running backs, with this being the 0 running back strategy, I've got to get another running back here, a solid one I think can put up some solid numbers. And AJ Dillon and JD McKissick, those are 2 big candidates, especially AJ Dillon with the way he ended the season. We saw his run at the end of the year last year. Many suspected that AJ Dillon would be RB1 in Green Bay because we weren't sure what the Packers would do with Aaron Jones. But even though AJ Dillon is RB2 in Green Bay, I still think he can put up some really solid numbers. And JD McKissick is a solid choice for PPR as well. Right, we've got James Conner, Michael Pittman Jr., Kenyon Drake, Tua Tagovailoa, Curtis Samuel, and Damian Harris off the board. So we're just getting into the 10th round here. Matt Ryan is off the board. All right, McKissick is off the board. So there's still a chance that I can get a solid running back here to add on to my depth, or as some can argue, lack thereof. All right, Stafford's off the board. Joe Burrow's off the board. Robert Tonyan's off the board. Jarvis Landry's off the board. So if this person doesn't draft AJ Dillon here, that's my next selection. All right, Corey Davis was the selection. So I am going to go with AJ Dillon. Let me see what kind of tight ends are available here. Because maybe if I can take maybe a Mike Gesicki or an Irv Smith Jr. then maybe I could potentially use it, or even a Higby. I think Higby's gonna have a good season as well because Stafford really targeted Hawkinson a lot in Detroit last year, and I think Higby is going to get that kind of action as well with Stafford quarterback this season. But I'll look at that at a later round. Right now, I think I want to get another wide receiver here. So Rager, Mike Williams, Devontae Parker. I am going to actually. I'm going to go with Devontae Parker here. And I think the next wide receiver I do target, because I plan on targeting at least one or two more wide receivers. I'm thinking either Elijah Moore or Russell Gage. Now, this does sound like a strange strategy considering that I already have Calvin Ridley. Honestly, I think Russell Gage is going to become that number two receiver as well. So I think maybe somebody might want to trade for Russell Gage potentially, depending on how many targets he gets before the trade deadline. And of course, the trade deadline always varies from league to league. Elijah Moore, I expect to have a solid rookie campaign, maybe even fantastic rookie campaign, because we always have a couple rookie wide receivers that have great rookie seasons. We've seen that in recent memory. And I think this season we could see that out of Elijah Moore. All right, so catch you back up on the speed. We've got to catch you back up to speed here. Mike Williams was off the board. See, Rager's off the board. Gesicki, and then Fitzpatrick, Aguilar, Jamal Williams, Irv Smith, Trey Sermon. Gronk is off the board. Singletary's off the board. Or the Steelers' defense is off the board, which is nothing to worry about because I already got the Rams' defense. Darnell Mooney's off the board. I mean, Darnell Mooney, solid pick there. Buccaneers defense off the board. Nico Hartman's off the board. Jonnu Smith is off the board. Evan Ingram's off the board. So it looks like we're seeing quite a bit of tight ends. Sort of that second tier to third tier tight ends starting to come off the board here in these later rounds. So I am going to go with Elijah Moore. And then for the next round, I want to target another running back because right now my wide receivers, they're in better quality than the running backs are. So I want to get as much running back depth as I can. So there's Alexander Madison. All right, so I'm up next. All right, Russell Gage is off the board, but that's okay because I took Elijah Moore. So let's see. Sonny Michel seems like a solid choice here, but I won't go with Sonny Michel. I might go with Alexander Madison because depending on what could happen with injuries, you just never know. It's always best to kind of stash some backup running backs just in case your starting running back or the starting running back gets injured or has to miss some time. And that could be a value pick in the long run. All right. So I feel like my running back depth, I feel like it's pretty solid here, considering what the strategy was going into this. You know what? I might consider a second tight end here because we've still got Hunter Henry and Tyler Higbee available. As I said earlier, I think Tyler Higbee has the potential to have a really terrific season. So I'm going to put Higbee on my Q list. I'm going to put Hunter Henry on my Q list as well because Bill Belichick really loves using tight ends. All right, Hunter Henry's out the board, but that's okay. I could maybe still get Tyler Higbee. If not, there can always be a Jared Cook option. Although I feel like with the depth that I have at tight end already, all right, 49ers defense on the board, that's fine. Not really bothered by that. I mean, Jared Cook, maybe I'd only have to really start one time, or I can just completely pass on tight ends in general, knowing that I have a strong tight end already in Travis Kelce. But I think taking Tyler Higbee, I feel like I'm already set because I could even maybe put in Higbee as a flex or something. All right, Rashad Penny's off the board. Ben Roethlisberger's off the board. Tevin Coleman. All right, Bills defense off the board. All right, Washington's defense is on the board, which really surprised me because Washington's defense was one of the best in the league last year. So I'm surprised they're still on the board this late. All right, Higbee's off the board. So now that Higbee's off the board, I'm probably just going to settle for not taking a second tight end here. I'll just take Washington's defense here. I mean, there's really no harm in taking two of the best five defenses in the league, at least in my opinion, at least who I expect to be the top five defenses. So Washington's defense, really not that bad of a choice. It's actually in the 14th round. That could be considered a big steal. So the 15th round, I'm just gonna look at, and I might look at another wide receiver to see what's here. Bateman, AJ Green, Gabriel Davis. Hmm. All right, I'm gonna go with Rashad Bateman. And now to take my kicker, we'll just see who's there at the time. I mean, Tucker's always reliable. We did miss a couple field goals last year. I'd say, all right, Inway Koo's off the board. Harrison Butker's off the board. Browns defense, Saints defense off the board. But honestly, it doesn't matter about what the kicker is. I feel like almost the majority of kickers are the same. I mean, they're still going to they're all going to get opportunities at some point. All right, Justin Tucker's at the board. Trey Lance at the board, which Trey Lance this late in the draft it's a really nice risky pick because you never know. I think Trey Lance, maybe we might see him starting for the 49ers sooner than we think. Although I think Garoppolo's going to be the starter week one, but you just never know. Right, Jason Myers at the board for the Seahawks, Packers defense. McManus at the board. Cole Kmet. All right, Evans at the board for the Titans. Sanders, Matt Gay, and Ahmed for the Dolphins. So taking a kicker here, and I am going to go with. I'm just going to go with Ryan Suckup. Again, it's a kicker. Kickers aren't really that big of a deal. So that is the end of my first mock draft. I'll probably do some more on my channel sometime soon. But let's quickly go through this. Now, the plan was to go the zero running back strategy here. So my plan was to just pass on a running back the first two rounds and see what I can come up with. So Travis Kelsey in the first round, Calvin Ridley in the second. I took DeAndre Swift in the third round and Cooper Kupp in the fourth. Josh Allen and Travis Etienne, Tyler Boyd, Leonard Fournette. The Rams defense, A.J. Dillon, Devontae Parker, Elijah Moore, Alexander Madison. The Washington defense, Rashad Bateman, and then Ryan Suckup as my final pick. So, as far as an overall rating, I would say that's maybe a really solid draft. I mean, I'd say maybe a 7 at the very least. Let's take a look at some other teams here. Herbert, Cook, Montgomery, Michael Thomas, DJ Moore, Fant, Jamar Chase, the Broncos defense, Tyler Bass, Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, Henry Ruggs, Tariq Cohen, James White, and Tyrell Williams. So I'm not going to go through pick by pick here. I'm just going to kind of show the teams here so you can see who did the best in your opinion. All right, we saw my team already. So there's the next one. All right, so that will do it for my first fantasy football mock draft. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time.